China and India rank very highly in terms of economic GDP growth. They are certainly amongst the world's largest, and China is now tipped by around 2017 to overtake the US in terms of economic GDP growth. But on other measures, in terms of people's livelihoods, salaries, compensation, and so on, and the environment in which they live, they're very, very different, and they still have a long way to go in terms of the development, economic development and social human development. So when you bear that in mind, understanding it's not a homogeneous market, leadership is very much affected by the current state of dynamics, both in terms of social and economic dynamics in every country. So for instance, you take somewhere like Myanmar, which is just opening up. Myanmar and even Vietnam are very much like China was perhaps 20 to 25 years ago. Still a style that is heavily influenced by government and by government leadership. So many of these countries are about to come out of a period of perhaps 30 to 40 years where leadership has been based on a political agenda. You look at other countries' economies such as India, and even now in China, where you're seeing China has a very strong private sector now that is emerging. Classic example of just how well developed now the private sector is becoming in China can be seen in the successful IPO of Alibaba in New York, in the stock exchange this week. In India, you've had a burgeoning private sector for a lot longer period, but a lot of the economic infrastructure that has not been as well developed as it should be has perhaps prevented the private sector from developing. So some countries, it's very autocratic, very politically driven still. In others, you could look at the other end of the spectrum where it's very much a capitalist-led society, equally as developed as you would find perhaps in Europe or in the United States or any other developing part of the world. And then you have the spectrum in between.